Hello, and welcome to the Westcliff University Pear Deck training. Today we're going to talk about Pear Deck. We'll begin by talking about what are Google add-ons. We'll talk a little bit about Pear Deck and where to find it. We'll also talk about ideas for how to use this application in your classroom. And then we'll talk about how to add Pear Deck to your presentation. So first, what are Google add-ons? Well, Google add-ons are applications that you can add to Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets that help enhance the application, the program that you're using. You can also add Pear Deck to if your Microsoft 365 in the Microsoft PowerPoint, but it would have to be the online version. And you would add that through what's called an add-in. But let's take a look at where the add-ons are located on your Google Slides. So if you notice at the top of your toolbar, you have add-ons. When you click add-ons, you can click Get Add-ons. When you click Get Add-ons, you would search for the particular add-on that you're looking for. So we're looking for Pear Deck. So we would search for Pear Deck for Google Slides. We see that it's already installed, but if it wasn't, we would click here and we can install it. And we can also read a little bit more about it. So that's where you access the add-on. If you have it as an add-on, then it will appear here and you can see it. It says Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on. And when you open that, you can open it and a side toolbar will pop up where you would access the controls for Pear Deck. Another important feature of Pear Deck is the Pear Deck Powerup. If you like to display videos during your class and you want your students to be able to hear the sound of those videos, then you want to make sure that you have the Pear Deck Powerup installed because it will actually play the sound on your device for the students rather than playing it through their devices, through their cell phones or through their windows. So you have to have the Pear Deck Powerup through the Google Chrome in order to have sound displayed through the Zoom feature of your presentation. So the way you do that and get the Pear Deck Powerup is not the same way as you get the add-on. You actually have to go to the Google Chrome store. So you would click on apps, wherever that is located for your particular browser. You would go to the web store for Google Chrome, and then you would search the store for the Pear Deck Powerup. I highly recommend the Pear Deck Powerup for those who really want to play videos in their class and they want to do it seamlessly throughout their presentation. So once you add the Pear Deck Powerup to your Chrome, then it will pop up in a window. It'll pop up actually on the toolbar. So that is another way that you can access Pear Deck quicker rather than going from add-ons to the Open Pear Deck add-on. You can actually just click Pear Deck and it will go right to the Pear Deck window. So you must present your lesson using Pear Deck. Now, typically, we're used to presenting using the present here, the present function here, but in order for Pear Deck to actually work, you have to open up the Pear Deck window and you have to click Start Lesson. So we'll start the lesson here. You can choose either student-paced activity or you can choose the instructor-paced activity. When you are with your students, it's better for you to use the instructor-paced activity because you guide how quickly they go through the activity. You guide the slides and they move with you throughout the slides as you go through them. For the student-paced activity, that's more for an offline mode. If students are completing the presentation or going through the presentation when they're not in class, then that's the mode that you would open. But we're going to open instructor-paced activity. And when that happens, what's a join code will pop up. It's loading here. Still loading. A join code will pop up and something called the teacher dashboard. Now, the teacher dashboard is helpful for you as an instructor to see what the students are contributing to the presentation as you go. So this will pop up as well as the display code or the join code for your students. Your students, once they get the hang of it, will be able to sign in every class that you use Pear Deck. But in the beginning, you might want to give a little bit more time for them to get used to this application if they've never used it. So what the students will do is they will go to joinpd.com. They can actually do that in another browser, or they can do that on their cell phones. When they go to joinpd.com, let's say they go through their browser, they will be prompted to enter a code. See, our code for today is UUSLE. So they will enter UUSLE, and they can be entered into the presentation for our class for the day. So while that's loading, so they will receive this question. You can turn this question off, but typically it'll say, how are you feeling today? They can enter how they're feeling, and then the presentation will be started for them. So they will see the first slide, and until I move the slides, they will not see the next slides unless student pace mode is on. So you can see I have one student who's connected, and you can keep track of how many students have connected. You can also ensure that you know which students are connected to the Pear Deck presentation by enabling them to sign in with their username. And you would do that in the Pear Deck settings. So I will actually take you through that feature. You go to Pear Deck, the website, you do your teacher login. You can see I'm logged in. So what I do is actually go to my account, and I go to my settings. When I go to my settings, I can see that I have classroom climate on. So if I turn this off, the beginning question of how do you feel today would go away. You have the option for mood only, mood and feedback, feedback only. So those are options that you can enable. And then where you want to require if you want to require student login, so you can see which students have logged in and which students are answering their questions, then you simply turn that on. And what that will do will force them to sign in through their Westcliff Gmail accounts. So you can do that there. Sometimes I have it off for if I need students to log in quickly, but it's up to you. So once you are ready to start the class, you can click Start the Class. Now, when that happens, the join code will always be in the corner. Let's say a student comes late and you need to grab that join code for that student. You simply hit the code in the corner and it'll open again. It'll say joinpd.com UUSLE. Now, once the students already know the website, you can just say go to joinpd.com and enter the code in the corner. The teacher dashboard is helpful because it allows you to see what students are responding to, and this is something that you don't have to share with the students on the screen. So only you can see this, and the teacher dashboard is very helpful, and I'll show you as we go through this presentation. So we talked about the join code, very important, always available in the top corner, and the students will know, they will get the routine of joining through the join code as they go through. We also talked about the difference between the instructor paced activity and the student paced activity modes, and those will be helpful as we talk about student paced mode later. And then lastly, the teacher dashboard is very, very helpful to understanding what students are answering. So when students answer questions, as you can see on the screen, you can see their responses as they're entering them, and then you can choose to display particular responses. You can display all the responses, or you can select the ones that you like, and you can hide particular responses. Let's say if it's not a response that you wanted the class to see. And we will talk about that in a bit. So let's talk about the types of questions. So this is a particular question, and this is called a draggable question. When the students see this, and we're also logged in as a student, so we'll see how that shows for them. So when the student sees this image, they're prompted to drag their icon to where this is a question that asks where they're feeling right now. keep going, I understand, or I'm a little confused. So they can put their dot on wherever they want. So to show you what that looks like in the Pear Deck application, you can see that this question here is a particular slide. Now this slide is available in the template library, and you can actually scroll through and look at the types of slides they have available to fit your needs, right? And so during a lesson, you could use one of these example templates. This one is there in that slide. So when I select that, it'll shift over to the presentation, and then I can edit it as I would feel. Let's say that I didn't want to use these prompts. I wanted to say today, tomorrow, yesterday, something like that, and then ask the question to that these specific prompts. You could do that. You can also change the type of icon that you use. The way I do that is I would delete this this piece at the bottom. I would go to the Pear Deck library, or where the Pear Deck pop-up is located, and then I would click draggable. Since this is a draggable slide and I want it to be draggable, I want the students to be able to drag something around, I can choose what I want them to drag. So I can use a heart. I can change the color here. I'm going to stick with red. I can choose any of these options. There's some more options here and here and here. And then I can also add another option for a different thing. So if that's something you wanted to do, and you can do this with any type of slide, doesn't necessarily need to be a slide that says, how are you feeling? It could be a map. It could be anything you prefer. You can make the size of the icon smaller. You can make the size of the icon bigger. Just depends. So I update that slide, and when I do that, then the slide updates to the draggable icon. And so just to refresh, anytime you see this at the bottom of a draggable slide, in order to change that, you can just delete it and then add draggable slide to your slide. So that's how you do it using that. All right, so let's keep moving. So the types of questions. So that was one type of question, the draggable. Now what's good about the draggable is that when the students are implementing their response, right? This says, do your students participate often in your online class? So I'm going to drag my dot to here. Another feature that you can take advantage of is something called the grid and the overlay view. When you're showing the responses, this is the grid layout, but you can also show the overlaid option. And that basically allows students to see, kind of where everybody congregated their answers. Each one is beneficial to you. It just depends on which questions. You can also notice that sometimes a student may decide to keep moving their icon. And when that happens, you can, as the instructor, choose to lock the screens. Now, when that happens, what students will see is this screen. Your teacher has locked responses for this slide, and this is your current answer. So it will lock their slide on where their answer is. So let's continue on. That slide was a draggable slide, but now let's talk about some of the other slides that are available to you. This is a simple kind of math slide. Basically, it requires a number. So what the students will see is this: solve the problem and type the numerical answer. So if they say, oh, it's 50, or let's say they say 40 or 10. They say 10 and they press enter. And then another student would enter an answer. What then happens is you can, as a teacher, see on the teacher dashboard what the students kind of recorded. And this is kind of in the form of kind of the overlaid view, but there's also the grid layout. You can see that people entered 10 or 50. And I'll keep it in that because it's a little bit more easier to see. But when I show the responses to the students, they will see 10 and 50. I can also lock the screens. And for this particular question, I can also do what's called a timer. So if I hold down the lock screen button, I can select 30 seconds, I can select a minute, and I can also select 3 minutes. So when that time runs out, and the students will see this timer going off in the corner, and when that time runs out, it will automatically lock the screen for the student. And then you can see the nice, neat countdown function that will display on the screen. So we're gonna let the timer run out here and show you what the students will see. Your teacher has locked the slide, responses for the slide. Your current answer is 10. And then we can unlock the screens here. Students still need a bit more time, and then we can also just go ahead and display the responses. So that's a simple math numerical slide. The where you find that is in the Pear Deck toolbar. You can look on the side and you will see the number slide. And that is where students will be required to enter a number. So when you select that and drag it to one of your slides, then that option is available to students. All right, let's see what other types of questions they have. They also have what's called a multiple choice slide, or a choice question. And if you see in the corner, there's a blue circle with 4 squares, and it says choice. Well, that's your hint that this question is a choice slide. So what the students see for this question is 4 different responses. But as the educator, you can set them to however many responses you prefer. So this question asks, social distance, you recommend staying how far away from others? This student will select 6 feet. Maybe the other student might select something different, but you can see all of that in the teacher dashboard. So you can see what students have selected, and then you can choose to display that for a particular student. All right. So when you choose to display the responses on the teacher screen, you can show the responses and talk over the responses with the students. And it's important to talk over the responses. Let's say a student selected the answer choice of very close instead of 6 feet away. Well, you can ask for clarification, because it may be that the students are interpreting the questions in 2 different ways. And so that's important to create these moments for discussion with your students. So where you find this particular slide is same place in the Pear Deck toolbar. You could select the choice option to add to one of your slides. And the way you add that, you can add it to an existing slide already. Let's say I wanted to add it to this slide. Well, I can type in my answer choices, types of questions, multiple choice, number, math slide, and a website slide. So those are the choices that students will get, and this will automatically go into this question. So that's one way you can add it to the slide pretty quickly. So you can use any of the slides you already have made and add on these types of question options, or you can go through the browse the template library and you can select different types of questions that they already have pre-made, and you can actually edit these slides. So if I wanted to take this student out, I could do that and change the picture. But it's up to you. So let's move to the next type of question. The next type of question is what's called a text question. So students, when they read the question, they will have to type something in. So explain, what things have you tried or do you want to try in the online classroom? Let's say as a student, I enter Pear Deck, and then that will be the answer choice. Now let's say that a student enters something that I don't want to display and I want to hide this response. So I'm looking on my teacher dashboard, and as the responses are coming in, as the responses are coming in, I noticed that one of the students has said nothing for their response. Now, I'm not sure I want to display that response, so I can simply click the three little dots and click hide response. Now, what that then does is when I display the responses on to the whole class, I show responses, and the only response the students see is the responses that I displayed. So the answer choice of nothing that's a student put is now hidden. So I say, oh, okay, Pear Deck. People want to learn how to try Pear Deck in the classroom. Now that is all. Where you find the text slide is same place in the Pear Deck toolbar. You just look for the text option right there. And you can add that to a currently existing slide. Let's say you ask a question to your students, or you can use one of the text slides that are already available. And the way you'll know that is, let's say you're going through the template library. You click on social emotional learning. We can see that this is an instruction slide. This is a drawing slide. So they're labeled draggable slide, text slide. So I can click this one, and then I can also edit out the picture, or I can edit out the question as I go through. Okay. So after the lesson, there's a way to publish takeaways, and you can do that by ending the session. So these three dots at the bottom here open up the opportunity to end the session. When you end the session, you have the option to turn to publish takeaways, and the takeaways go into Pear Deck, but they also can go into your Google Classroom or into your Google folder, wherever you have it routed to. So if you could see on this image, it says share to my Google Classroom. Now, if all your students were registered or signed in or logged into your Google Classroom, then they would all get the takeaways from the presentation. And the takeaways are just printouts of the entire the slides, as well as the students' individual answers. So it's linked to their email. If they sign in using their email, then they will all get a takeaway once you publish takeaways and you end the session. Now you can keep a session open for a long time, so students can go back and forth to it and still work through it, but that's up to you. Once you end the session, then it will publish the takeaways. So you can check which sessions are open and which are closed by looking at your Pear Deck window, and it looks like this. You would just click on sessions and you would see which ones are still live, which ones have been closed. The ones that are closed have takeaways that are available to you either in your Google Drive, or you can access them through the Pear Deck website. Pear Deck is free for 90 days, and there's also free webinars that you can sign up for. So you can go through and select that. And what this slide is called, and we didn't talk about this slide yet, but this is called a website slide. So when the students see this slide, they can click through their phones into the link at the bottom, and they can visit the website. And this is where you can go. You can embed the slide. You can embed the website into the actual slide. So if you want your students to go through a particular website while you're teaching, you say go through this website, and then you can ask them questions about this website after, or you can embed it in purely for knowledge. Like if this slide was embedded into a Pear Deck training, then students could access Pear Deck and go through their educators or whoever was taking the training and sign up. So that's what students see on their end. So we're going to talk quickly about student paced mode, because it's an option for you. Let's say you're teaching, and when you turn on student paced mode, it really gives the time to the students to go through the slides as they would like. So that once student paced mode has been turned on, and you click on the three dots in the corner, you turn on student paced mode, and you make sure that this appears. So then you know that student paced mode is on, and you press, okay, got it. So the students now from this slide on can go through any of the slides at their leisure. So usually you put in directions to prompt them so that they can know when to stop student paced mode if you want them to be able to stop it at a particular point. So this slide says explore the website. So the students can click into the website and they can explore the website. and they can see what's on the website. It talks about gender and terminology, so they can go through that and look through that, right? And then they can see, oh, name something new you learned from the website. Okay, learned about gender. So this is what the students are doing, and you can give them a time limit. So you can say, take 10 minutes. I'm going to turn on student pace mode, go through the next couple of slides, and you'll know when to stop, right? So the students in class, they're going through this, and it says, okay, stop. You ended student pace mode. So once that happens, the students can stop, or they can go through it. But once they stop there, then you can choose at the end of the time to then stop the student pace mode. Once you do that, now you've taken over the presentation, and the students are back to your slide that you are currently on. When that happens, you can go to the next slide or the slides that you chose, and you can display responses, right? So you can see that for this slide, a student said, I learned about gender. And then you can have a discussion about that. And then you can just skip through these slides, and then you're at the end of your presentation. So this brings us to the end of the Pear Deck presentation. Thank you for taking time to watch this presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to light@westcliff.edu. Thank you for your time.